Now, for reaction to the Botswana court ruling, we're now joined on the line by Ricki Kgositau, who is the Accountability International Executive Director. She joins us now on the line from Gaborone. Thanks very much indeed for joining us on the program. Your first reactions to this historic decision?
Thank you so much, Peter, for having me, and thank you as well to your listenership for this particular opportunity to engage a little bit on this humongous development for human rights, dignity, and equality in Botswana as of this morning. The energy is palpable in Botswana. It is an incredible fever that has just swept across the country and even most of the continent. Elation and celebration over the fact that this marks the closure of a 20-year journey, essentially, because if you will know, this matter was actually tabled before the court as far back as 1998 with the amended versus the state matter. So where we're sitting and standing right now is only by the culmination of a strategic impact litigation that we took on, which was also an incremental approach that we took to the litigation in Botswana. So I think at this point in time, what I can tell you is the LGBTI community, of course, is elated and overjoyed at this particular ruling, coming more especially with a judgment that I feel as a human rights advocate and an international human rights law practitioner that it is an airtight judgment and one that was absolutely well written insofar as many of matters of this nature have come out of the continent.
All right, so you said a 20-year journey. Why do you think it's taken so long to get to this point?
It has been a lot of factors. One, I think it was a difficulty on the part of the court to really fully appreciate the depth and breadth of the matters that we were bringing before the court. And then secondly, there has been this particular phrasing we spoke about the readiness of Botswana or the unreadiness of Botswana in previous times when we have approached the court. Talking about the readiness to actually embrace such kind of a progressive legislative reform, which essentially was supposed to be partnered by a social reform of norms, attitudes, beliefs, values, and even practices, not to mention behavior as well towards LGBTI persons at communal or community level. So it has been a culmination of trial and error, I think, on our part as a movement and as a community, and continuously learning from each time that we had approached the court and were not successful, and learning from that as to what then definitely is required by the court in terms of the full extent of our arguments that we needed to actually progress before them.
So does this mean that the LGBTIQ community have had to live underground, as it were, in hiding because of these strict laws?
Botswana presents a much more nuanced kind of context, however, in that at a social level, Botswana have for the longest time been embracing and accepting of diversity and difference. The challenge has always been, I guess, on the law in itself, not necessarily reflecting those particular perceptions, attitudes, and beliefs that were held by a Motswana of today. So it has not been such that a Motswana person who's LGBTI had to live in hiding. It was only that social services were inaccessible to a Motswana. Access to law enforcement, access to justice and security were inaccessible. But visibility in terms of existing as openly LGBTI or trans persons, that wasn't necessarily the case. It was a matter of the fact that social services at a structural level have forever been denied to such a community of ours, basing that on the fact that the penal code or the very fundamental constitution of the country was not necessarily clearly protective of LGBTI persons, which could then be able to direct policy formulation and direct the way in which we designed and tailored social services.
All right. In that answer, you've already given us some clues in terms of my next question. But I suppose from today, how does life change? Can people of the same sex get married now in Botswana, for example?
That is, I think, one of the very top questions that has come out of all engagements. But at this point in time, the judgment does not necessarily extend to the full plethora of privileges and I guess liberties that any other Botswana has, because there also remains all these other statutes that underpin our constitution that will need to be reformed in a way to then accommodate what now has come out as a legal recognition and protection of LGBTI persons at a constitutional level in the country. But what this means essentially is that now we have the legal foundation to make and mount any case demanding for equality within education policy, health policy, access to and equality to marriage, access to reproductive health and services. The list goes on, Peter, that which we can be able to now demand and ask of our government at this point in time.
All right, and perhaps as a final question, society, I guess, needs to change a little bit as well. So African societies, culturally, we struggle with same-sex relationships. And I just wonder, you've said earlier that Botswana have been embraced it, but this is now a different kettle of fish, I guess, because it is now legal. Yeah. Is everybody going to embrace this? Is there an element of homophobia that might play out?
No, it's quite interesting that, Peter, you bring that up, because as I've been following with the various interviews and media engagements that we have done since the judgment actually was handed down this morning, you are seeing elements of homophobia that are surfacing, of persons that have been holding onto their own sentiments and prejudices, basing that on the fact that the law of the land was on their side. Now that the matters have shifted in favor of the LGBTI community, the dissenting voices are now coming to the fore in a much more robust manner. And certainly as a community, I think we are prepared to engaging with them. If you're looking at, for instance, the work that I have done with my own litigation seeking legal gender recognition for transgender persons, which was concluded in the High Court as well in 2017, it is telling of the fact that we have a greater proportion of our society at this point in time who are in support of embracing diversity, borrowing even from a Motswana's ethos of Botu or Ubuntu, we call it Botu in Botswana, which speaks about this indivisibility of my individuality versus that of another person, as we are brother, sister, sibling within same community. So there is strong elements of support, I must say, at community level with clergy, religious leaders and church leaders who all were also a part of today's bigger congregation that was in court, whom we've also rallied with all these years of actually mounting our incremental approach on litigation. So I would say definitely we are prepared for the backlash that would come. I do not envisage, however, that it would be as violent in terms of physical assault and physical attacks on LGBTI persons as it would be in any other context within the continent where such matters have been debated. But I do believe that we sit with a precedent in Botswana where, having won the Lekhabibo registration case, which was admitted as Agnieszka's carry on today's case, which was adjudicated on 2015 all the way to the Court of Appeals and still safeguarded. And with my case and that of NG seeking gender recognition, I believe we really have done a lot to try and pull Botswana as an individual, as a part of our community with us on this particular journey. And that work does not end just because we have now gotten this recognition and protection from the court. It now means we need to continuously invest efforts in raising more awareness and bringing together all parts of community and various leaders to now see how do we extend this very judgment to becoming the reality on the ground in terms of how we treat LGBTI persons.
All right, Ricki Kgositau, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us on this historic decision in Botswana. The courts there saying that same-sex relationships are now decriminalised. That was Ricki Kgositau, Accountability International Executive Director, speaking to me from Gaborone on the line. Palesa?